In all my time playing Counter-Strike, ever since 1.1, there have always been people saying that SG or AUG are noob weapons. And even worse rep gets auto snipers. In my experience, most of the time, these people have been elitist. And by that I mean people who shit on others for not playing the game in the way they are used to, or by some other arbitrary rule that everyone should obey in their mind. And you know what? Fine. I'll put that elitism thing away and let's just simply focus on points everyone raises about SG and AUG, and maybe touch on auto snipers as well. So here's my premise. If the weapon or tool is put in the game, it is valid to use it nonetheless. While this tool can be OP or broke as fuck, it's still a tool that is meant to be in there. It's the developer's vision of the game that matters, not your opinion. While developers try to make the game as fair as possible for everyone to play, you have to accept the fact that game is made by developers whose vision influences it, not your personal opinion on matters. There could be slight alterations and bug fixes, nerfs and so on and so forth, but it's still developer's vision. So to simply put, I think that if something is in the game, it's valid enough to be used by anyone. So when it comes to AUG or SG, there are quite a lot of arguments against use of this weapon. They say that because you can aim down the sights, it's more Call of Duty like or something. Or it requires less aim to be good with. Or dumbest of all, because most noobs tend to use it. Or last of all, they cost more. And really this is the only argument I take as valid one. But let's start with the dumbest of all. It's more Call of Duty like. Although this is extremely dumb to its core, I will still try to refute it in a way. So, while referring a game as Call of Duty like has become more of a joke, just because some people don't like Call of Duty, it's still a solid shooter. And aiming down the sights is really the representation of reality. That's actually how you use the fucking gun, you morons. Back in the day, gun mechanic in games were represented as shooting from hip because at the time resources and performance didn't really allow much of a wiggle room. But now the technology and gaming has advanced a lot. We can actually represent things as they are used exactly in reality. So now that that's done, moving on to argument that it requires less aim to be good with. And here I really have no idea what the fuck are people talking about. In YouTube alone you can watch a lot of comparisons between all the automatic rifles. And there you can see that even though spread for AUG and SG is a lot wider, it's still a lot cleaner. And that's without aiming. But when you start aiming, you will get a lot closer group, which is automatically good, of course. But really this is nothing to do with the argument. The argument states when you point your weapon, this weapon, AUG or SG, generally at enemy, you will have easier time hitting it. But by doing that, you're gonna probably hit less. Because both of these weapons have least amount of random spread, so you will have to be more precise with this weapon and have to aim more instead of less. And aiming does require skill, so this argument is out the window as well. So moving on to next argument, that noobs use it. And really, if this is not dumb right off the bat, then I don't know what is for these people. If something is easier and more intuitive to use, then it should be better. And here's a simple analogy for this argument. Let's say you and your friends are playing football, and one of the guys in opposing team has cleats. And obviously he's gonna have better traction, but you in your infantile mind just start shitting on the guy because he's using a better shoe. And the same argument goes for auto snipers as well. Yes, it costs more, and it is better, easier to use. And yes, I understand economy in Counter-Strike. You buy M4 or AK because they cost less. Well, you still approximately get the same weapon. But if you're loaded and you have option to buy a better weapon and someone chooses it, you shouldn't just shit on the guy because he chose to have a better weapon that he's more used to or that's easier to use. I mean, this type of thinking that everyone should conform to one type of playstyle or one weapon is just dumb. I mean, for fuck's sakes, if there is someone that is used to Mac 10 and pulls off headshots most of the time, then let him play with the fucking thing. I fucking hate it, but it's still good with him. In Counter-Strike you have tons of weapons and you can choose what the fuck ever you want to play with. And at the end of the day, if you pull off the same result, what does it matter? But all that aside, the last thing I want to say is that if you really like AUG or SG like me, just use it and just ignore those elitist fucks who say it's a noob weapon. Or if you like auto sniper, it's all valid. After all, they are pretty good weapons.